Hello, this is Victor. I'm here with a new Matt Hammer video, and this time I will answer a couple of questions that I received in my channel. So the first one is how some blessings are boosting the Dreadknight, and see if we can see statistically how it's boosted, and then how Tigurius is boosting other units. About the Tigurius, the only thing I will do, and I explain here, I will explain how it's improving the ability to throw psychic powers. So I will talk about these two topics, and I will start first how different blessings are improving the performance of the Dreadknight. So these are the unit that is going to be under review. Is the Dreadknight from the Grey Knights, and I'm going to look at the option with Gatling Silencer, the option with Heavy Stick Cannon, and the option with Gatling Silencer and Heavy Stick Cannon. And the powers that are going to be under review is Force for the Silencer, Misfortune, Prescience, and Perfect Timing. And then at the end, I will study how Tigurius improved the probability of manifesting powers. That I think is the interesting point on Tigurius. So going back to the Dreadknight thing, what I will do is compare how the stats are changing depending on the power that you have thrown and how the ability is improving. So let's start. So I will focus the study on the shooting, because I think is where all these blessings and powers are more useful, although there are some that are also affecting the ability in close combat, like the Misfortune, that is a malediction that gives rending, and also the Prescience you're rolling in close combat. But this time I will just focus on the shooting and see how this improves or not the shooting. And as usual, I will start with the light infantry. So, and if we look at the light infantry, we see that in the case of the Gatling Silencer, the best power is Prescience. So when we are shooting units with low value armor, the best option normally is going to be Prescience. And in the case of the and the other powers are going to be more or less similar. So we see the Misfortune will not add almost anything. You pass from 2 to 2.1. We have to take into account that Force is not adding anything when we are shooting with the Gatling 2 units with only 1 wound. Then if we look at the Heavy Stick Cannon, the best options are Prescience and Perfect Timing. And of course, Misfortune will not work, will not do anything on Heavy Stick Cannons because it have already rending. So I just put here that I take this into account, but will never improve versus the basic Heavy Stick Cannon. If we look the combinations of both, that is addition of the two numbers, the best option is to use Prescience when we are shooting to light infantry. And the next option is going to be Perfect Timing. So depending if the enemy that you want to shoot is behind cover or not, you will use Prescience or Perfect Timing. If it's behind cover, I recommend Perfect Timing. If it's not behind cover and it's going to use the normal armor, then it's better to use Prescience. And here we have the table for shooting to heavy infantry. And here what we can see is that in the case of the Gatling Silencer, the Misfortune is the best option, followed by Prescience. Although in the case of the Heavy Stick Cannon, still the best options are still Prescience and Perfect Timing, as we have rending as a basic ability. If we combine them both, we see that any of the three options are good. So Misfortune, Prescience, or Perfect Timing are all of them good options, and will not give a big difference in boosting. So it will depend when you throw if you can choose. So of course, if the unit have a heavy armor like Terminator, I will recommend Misfortune. because here is the average of all the different options. If you are shooting a unit that is not under cover or will not get use of the cover, I recommend to use prescience. And most of the times prescience and misfortune are going to be the best options, because normally heavy infantry don't make use of the cover. So perfect timing can give a little bit, but it's not going to be a game changer, especially when we talk about the sea cannon. So this is the first analysis. When we're shooting infantry, the best options are going to be normally prescience, and then if it's light infantry, perfect timing, and if it's heavy infantry, misfortune to give rending to the Gatling cannon. When we look the ability to shoot two monsters, we see that force is the way to go. First, put force on the Gatling if you have a Gatling silencer, even if you only have the Gatling silencer, or if you have Gatling silencer plus heavy sea cannon, the best thing to do is to add force. If your monstrous creatures have toughness 8 that you cannot wound, then add rending to the silencer, and the best options is add rending plus force. So misfortune plus force are going to be the best combination when dealing with monstrous creatures. Perfect timing will not add a lot, because normally the monstrous creatures will have better armor save or will have invulnerable save, so the cover a lot of times is not giving too much. And presence, yeah, will add as always, but in that case what we want to guarantee is that if you will make a wound with the Gatling silencer, the monster is killed. So this is why I think force is the key power, psychic power, when we are dealing with monsters. If we check flying monstrous creatures, it's almost the same. Here the only difference is that sometimes perfect timing can be good. Some of them flying monstrous creatures don't have a good armor save, so removing the ability to jink can be good, but force is also the way to go. So if you have Gatling silencer only, or you have Gatling silencer plus heavy cannon, I think the best option is to use force. The same and here you don't need misfortune most likely. It's better to have prescience to be able to repeat to hit to the monstrous creature, or heavy timing, perfect timing to avoid the jink, depending on the armor that the monster have. If the monsters have armor 4+, yeah, you don't bother with the jink, and then you go for prescience. If the monster have armor 5 or 6, that is not very common, then it's better to use perfect timing. The best combination, I think, in that case, shooting to flying monstrous creatures, is force plus prescience. Now we look shooting to light vehicles. Yeah, if you add misfortune or you throw misfortune to the vehicle, then is a good boost for the Gatling silencer, especially if the vehicle have well, if you have armor 10, with 6s you will do penetrating hits, and then you can glance and penetrate armors 11 and 12. If you have a heavy sea cannon, the best option is prescience, unless the unit is behind cover. I have to say, when I analyze vehicles, I don't take into consideration cover, or I put the scenario of cover. But we have to think that if the vehicle is in cover, for example 4+, then the 1.8 will be reduced to 9. In that way, perfect timing is going to be better. If the vehicle is behind cover 5+, so it's going to be 12. In that way, it's going to be almost the same. So if there is any cover on the vehicle, it's better perfect timing than prescience. If the vehicle is not under cover, then it's better to use, of course, prescience, because perfect timing will not add anything. If we look at the heavy vehicles, the picture is more or less the same. The only thing is that the Gatling, yeah, you can try to make lancings on armor 13 with the Gatling silencer, but I will not bet on that. I will more focus on what is boosting the heavy sea cannon, and in that case is going to be presence, and perfect timing. If the vehicle is just in cover, use perfect timing. If the vehicle is not in cover, use presence, and this is going to be the rule. And it's the same. If the cover 6 plus is better presence. Any cover that is 5 plus or better, then it's better to use perfect timing. If we look to the ability of shooting flyers, we see that the best option will be heavy cannon with presence. In that way, they will be able to repeat and improve, almost duplicate the probabilities to hit the vehicle. The other option is to use Misfortune on the Gatling silencer with a so high number of shots, some will hit, and then you will have more chances. Although in most of the cases, yes, you will need a 6, but then if it's against armor 10, Misfortune is not almost adding anything, that you will change the glancing by a penetrating hit. I will more go for to add a Misfortune, presence to the heavy cannon. If you go for armor 11 and armor 12, maybe Misfortune is adding more than presence. So it's up to you to balance, but it's going to be more or less the same, adding Misfortune or adding presence. If you can add both, maybe it's the best choice. Anyway, I don't think the Knight is made to shoot flyers without anti-sky fire. So yeah, you will have some chances, but not very high chances to do some damage. If we look at the total of shooting, yeah, we see that the presence maybe is the best options together with Misfortune. Again, if you, against monsters, use Force with the Gatling silencer. Let's go now to the NC is taking the average of everything. But as normally you should know which power or what you have to do is you have to planify the Dreadknight to whom is going to shoot. If you want to shoot against infantry, light infantry, use presence or use the ability to remove the cover safe, do perfect timing. If you're shooting to heavy infantry, presence and force, and maybe force and Misfortune. If you're shooting to monstrous creatures, the best option is force. The same for the flame monstrous creatures. And again, vehicle, whether it's presence or perfect timing, depending if the vehicle is behind the cover or not. And yeah, this is to cover the second question I received from the second question from the same person. Is he asked me also to take into account that Tigurius is boosting the Dreadknight. It's not going to make difference who is boosting the Dreadknight. What is going to make difference is the probabilities that you are going to launch this power. And all the analysis I did before is I suppose that the power is launched. If it's not launched, then you use all these abilities. Here what I'm doing is I'm comparing a Tigurius to a standard Psyker, and then I take into account the ability to repeat the roll dice to see how this is improving and the probabilities to have a success. If we go for one warp charge, using 2 dice is almost guaranteed that using 3 dice is almost guaranteed. While you need 6 dice to have the same percentage with a normal Psyker. If we go for 2 warp 2 warp charges, with 3 dice you have 75. If you want to have a 96 or something below 90, you only have to go to 4 dice, so 5. In the case of a 9 warp Psyker, you have to go to 7. Of course, if you go to higher dices and you have the table below, you have the risk of perils. That is in the first red table or orange table. If we go for a very difficult power that requires 3 power charges, of course we see that Tigurius with 4 also have a 50%, and then you only need 5 to have 75, and yeah, the build is you increasing the percentage much faster than a normal cycle. You see here the numbers. I don't think I have to describe all them. These numbers, when I take this into account, is that if I have perils of the war on the first throw, I don't repeat. This is how you base these numbers. You are going to do that if you have all the wounds. Maybe you are taking the risk. So if I take peril of the war, I don't care. I take the perils and then I throw. Because sometimes the perils are not that bad and you can take the risk. But if you are in the last wound, or maybe you want to be more conservative, then you can focus on avoiding perils of the war, and then you are not improving the ability to have the ability to throw spells. And then here is how you can minimize the perils from the warp. So if you can reroll almost with 2 dice, it's almost 0 the percentage that you will have the probability that you are going to have perils, because you have to throw 4 6s. Of course, there is some probabilities, but they are going to be very low. And you see that the probability of having perils are dropping dramatically. Of course, the second one, if you have perils only with doubles in case you want to use demonic, I will not use demonic with Tigurius. I will use normal what's called this. No, I will use psychic powers that are not from demonic. So Tigurius can work very conservative, having a lot of protection against perils from the warp if you reroll for that. If you reroll when you only have perils, and then and when you have the percentage are going to be in between these two, because if you reroll in the perils, then the risk of perils are dropping dramatically. As you can see, though, the probability of success on powers are going to be also not as good as I shared in the first table. And that's all what I want to share with you in that video. I wanted to talk about 2 questions that I received. I want to give some deep analysis using the stats. I hope you find this useful and entertaining. Please leave your comment below. Let me know what you think. Comment and like if you like it, subscribe if not subscribe it, please. And thanks a lot for watching. See you later. Bye.